Hello, everybody. It is Tom Chenault. It is the Legacy Leadership Show, and I've got my little boy Adrian here this week. Such a hard, unbelievably great show last week. But how you doing, Adrian?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to have technical support back in the house.
Are
right?
you? Oh my God! So many things went wrong. The show wasn't even streaming on about. You guys have no idea how bad a job I did. Because whenever Adrian tells me to do something, I listen in one ear and think I remember, and then I get there and I have no clue. So rather than try to fix it, I know it would make it worse. I just don't do whatever didn't work, and that's just the way it goes. So, how you doing?
I am great and happy to be back in the seat. I'm glad you asked me back, and happy 2025.
Yep. Teri Werner is on our show. She has been a visionary. She's been a coach. She's been a leader for so long that you would not believe it. And you look at her friends, just go to her Facebook wall or any of her social media and look who she rubs shoulders with, because it is the absolute cream of the crop in network marketing, young and old and young. And, I see Robert Butwin and I see Larry and Taylor and I see all those dinosaurs that I grew up with in the business. And then I see these young influencers following you too. And it warms my cockles. And
thank you.
Has it been since you were on my show last time?
I think it's been about 20 years. I was on with Dr. Dennis Waitley and Hall of Fame inductee Tim Brown, and it was back in 2004, 2005.
And
That's awesome.
You guys don't even think I've been, everybody goes, well, how long's the show been on? I go, well, like a long time. Well, I've never heard of it. And I go, yeah, that's because I'm a terrible promoter. But at the end of the day, we're back and we got her. And he's written a great book. And because you guys know, I had a hell of a year. I got in a head-on collision, 50 miles an hour, rolled 4 times, almost killed me. He saved my life along with my little girl and obviously God. And then on November 1st, we had that suicide in the family where Denise and I found her sister's body. And it has been a really rough emotional year for us. And being mad is insanity. I mean, it's insanity. And the first chapter of this tremendous book talks about forgiveness. And there's a few things and a few people I'm really mad at. And I was reading the book and I was feeling the pain of me hanging on to those people I don't want to forgive. And I realized it was on me to fix that. And I just want to thank you for this book, Teri, because I think it's epic. And it talks about a lot about prayer journaling, which is something I do. I pray a lot, but I never had the 2 words at once. So that was awful.
Powerful.
Cool. And he's a real Christian kid. So
he's a real one, huh?
He's the real deal.
A real boy.
I'm just like an Alcoholics Anonymous heathen. But yeah, I feel like I'm spiritual. I don't know how religious I am, but I'll tell you, I loved your book and I love you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I am doing great, and I am so honored to be on your show again. I always have such a great time with you. I just enjoy coming on and laughing.
Yeah.
We've had great times, and the book is my heart's work. It's my life's work. It is a combination of coaching and healing and restoration and skill development and how to lead others into that space. And I'm thrilled to have it out. It's definitely been a long time coming.
That is so cool. So first things first, where do people find it?
They go to trainwrecktotriumph.com.
Right.
And it will say purchase now at various areas, and you can purchase now, get the paperback or the ebook, either one. We have a free, if people will go on that site, trainwrecktotriumph.com, and if they will put their email in, they'll get a free ebook that is how to help your friend heal through their train wreck without jumping in with them. And it's bullet points, 23 pages of bullet points on how to communicate in a way that will promote healing in those in your life that have gone through trauma and are not quite to that place of triumph. And it's really very helpful to people. We have a lot of responses, even people with PTSD and various things that are really promoting this to the veterans and to other people, anyone who's had disappointment, devastation, or trauma.
That is so cool. Well, our good buddy Doug is watching the show, and he's got a heart for that world of helping people who have come.
Oh, I love Doug. I love
that
Doug.
stuff.
Doug and I have known each other longer than I've known you, Tom, I
Holy
think. It's been a long time.
That's impossible. Okay, so wait a minute. We have to ask the $50 question. Who do you like better?
Right now in this moment,
It
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
really, you know,
We
you tell
know
me
you
you
love
love me all the time.
That
So
is-
I love you.
Thank you. That is so great. So here's the deal. Everybody goes, Tom, I can't believe you got in that wreck. I can't believe this happened to you. And I've had a lot of issues like that in my life with my son, Dominic, and he's a great little kid. And people go, well, why you? And I constantly have said this for years and years and years. Why not me? Why not me? The wreck, why not me? If anybody had the ability to get through it on the other side and pull a message out of it, it was me. The suicide, the same thing. I didn't have access to trauma. I would not have liked this book a year ago. I swear to God, I would have read it like
Right on time then.
yeah, I would have read it like I read most things, like I know everything already, and kind of perused it versus ate it. But because of what I went through with my wife's sister and with this wreck, I am telling you, this thing is so near and dear to my heart. And to have access to the forgiveness piece and also the depth of the prayer journaling that you put in here, I'm telling you, it is something I think all you people, faith or otherwise, should buy. I mean, it is awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, Teri, tell us a little bit of your story and how you're obviously, I can't imagine you would have titled the book the way you did if that wasn't a personal part of your own journey. So share a little bit.
Yes. Well, you know, I don't tell my story from stage or in the book much because I feel like people are looking to really solve their story.
Sure.
But I will say this: I went through an incredible amount of train wreck. It was a train wreck. I went through a relationship that was incredibly difficult, but it came on the heels of several business situations where there was brokenness and betrayal, where things were things that were supposed to be a certain way that didn't go that way. And I ended up feeling quite betrayed. And it was in a difficult place, and it touched my finances in a big way.
Sure.
And then I ended up in this relationship, and I really think I did because I had not healed from those situations. I had not forgiven. I had not healed. I was younger then, and I was very competitive, very gun-ho, driver personality. And my way of winning was just to start a new company and be better, do it better.
Yep.
And so I kept doing that. And I think I had layers of debacles go on. And you really, sometimes you take what I call residual remnant realities into the next phase of your life. So I ended up in this relationship that was 6 months, 2 days, 12 hours. And it was a very long 6 months, 2 days, 12 hours. In maybe dog years or something, I don't know. And it was devastating. And to your point, Tom, about your story about the wreck and different things, the hardest part for me was not understanding how this could happen to me. I was already a speaker. I'd already taken my own company public that I co-founded with a family member. I had already done the things that people would look at as being successful, but I was broken.
There you go.
And the brokenness attracted more brokenness because I just kept building on the dump yard of brokenness, so to speak. So I bless the fact that this happened to me. I bless the fact that I had to be accountable. I made choices that I knew at the time. There was this little thing saying, something's just not right here for you. And I still did because I was invincible. I literally felt like I could do anything in the world and do it well. And I would always win because I always won. Because I was known one time I was 13 as the golden girl. So I got to this place of depletion, devastation. But what happened was God used that to heal me, because as I forgive that, I forgave all the other things I hadn't forgiven, all the other things that I had held against and become bitter. And I really embrace this, that the delays of life, the traumas, all the things that happen, I really do believe is our intersection with destiny to face ourselves, to face the pain, and to finally release and forgive.
Wow. And so in this, because I think there's some really deep truth there, inside of that space where you hadn't, there were these significant people and these significant experiences in your life that you hadn't forgiven. What was the impact of that lack of forgiveness on you in that season?
It was tremendous. It was devastating. The most dangerous thing we can do in our lives is not forgive.
There you go.
The most dangerous thing. And I want to speak to what you're asking me, but I want to kind of clarify that a bit. Is and this is not a sermonization or anything, but in scriptural days, if you look at Old Testament and scriptural days, if you murdered someone, the spiritual law and the physical law was they would strap the dead body, the carcass, so to speak, to you, facing you. And so everywhere you went, you got to see what you did. And the death that was created by you became your own death. You literally lost your life because of what you took. Okay, that's the typology of forgiveness.
Wow.
And so that's truly what takes place. If you don't forgive, you are faced every day. Those people you're not forgiven, they're not thinking about you today. They didn't get up putting their feet on the floor out of bed going, oh, I wonder how they're feeling about me. They don't care. You're over. And, they may think of you now and then, but they don't remember like you did because they don't have the emotional devastation, the emotion tied to it. And so what I experienced was I became hard. I became very dominating, everything had to be in my control.
Yeah.
I had to, which meant I had less and less control because I kept thinking I needed control.
Yeah.
But it was very hard. It tainted my relationships. It tainted who I attracted in my life were more people who would betray, because that was what I was putting out. My expectations became to be betrayed.
Were you still running around with a Bible?
I was not as much as I had been, but yeah, I was. My dad's a minister. My company I took public was in the church realm. So I was very steeped in it. But for some reason I was able, I would feel like I had this information for people and I always thought it was for them. But the best information we get is really how we apply it to ourselves. It's not good information if we're not living it, And so I started attracting. But, one thing I want to mention about that has to do with business is how you experience personal life is how you'll experience business life and vice versa. There is no deciding line. There's no line there. You are who you are. And life is as it is because of your choices. And so when you walk in a room and you're in a networking room and you're going in and you're there, to do your deal, to do your networking, you have two mindsets you get to choose. One is probability, one is possibility. And I literally prayed about this and I said, what makes the difference of people that get over betrayal and difficulty and brokenness and go on to create amazing business the next time, no matter what it is, and people who do not? And here's the one answer. I believe this answer is forgiveness. The ones who forgive learn from the lessons, they mount up, they use that as foundational, and they go, wow, I'm glad I learned that. Now I get to share it. Now I know what's best. And the others who do not forgive are walking in expecting a debacle and creating their own half the time. And they're going to look at it differently, the perspective, the RAS. We talk about the reticular activation system. I think that's tied to forgiveness. What are we looking for is because of what we're experiencing internally. So that's my viewpoint on it. But unforgiveness destroyed many years of my life. And my message is do it now. Forgive now.
Probably ought to forgive me for not taking you to London.
Never.
And I'm not going to forgive you for not asking me to go either. So, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Two problems right here.
Yeah, no, it's such an interesting point of connection, I think, really through, your traditional faith background and so much of what science is now, proving and we're starting to kind of figure out some of the scientific, all of this stuff is kind of coming together. But that carrying around those resentments and that lack of forgiveness and all of those things leading to what you perceive is about to happen, and then you begin to bring it about, either by the types of people who you choose to associate with, that then are all of these pieces fit together. And it's I've seen it in my own life, I've seen it in other people's lives, and that's such an important lesson.
He's seen it in his dad's life. They always comment on how much of a scorekeeper I am. They do, because somebody does something and they're on my list, and he's just so doggone perfect. He just looks at me and says, Dad, we need to talk this out and unpack that. So we go through it, and by that time I'm weeping and apologizing and forgiving. But I'm telling you guys, her book and what she wrote and how she wrote it, with all the pages for you to write in there and actually process your thoughts as you're reading the book, is a gift from God. And I just think you need to read it, don't you?
I really
do. Thank you. So much of when we talk about unforgiveness, we really do ourselves great damage because we become so unaware personally. We become self-deceived. We don't see what is really taking place. We don't hear what is really being said because it shortcuts our depth. And that's one thing I think is really profound, is we become a shallow version of ourselves, even though we don't know it, even though that's not our intent. We're not able to be present to every place in life that we really would choose to be.
So God's got you right here, right now. You're going to be 71 tomorrow. Everybody wish you a happy birthday.
Yes.
Probably shouldn't have been saying that out loud, but that's the way that goes. I don't really think about what I'm going to say. But don't you feel happier and more alive? I look at you and your husband, and I look at you and your life. Don't you just feel more alive than you ever have? Isn't that a great feeling?
It is amazing. It is amazing. And, one thing I bring up in my book is a lot about peace. I really do believe that peace is something we earn, that it's something we choose, but it's also something we earn. And now in my life, God took me, I have an interesting relationship. I knew this man when I was 13, he was 15. We thought each other was hot, even though we look at our pictures at that point and going, wow, not really. That was not happening there, but we loved each other. We just thought we were great, And actually, we disconnected through an interesting thing that took place to do with the mail. And 45 years later, he called my dad to thank him for mentoring him. And I was there, and God had told me the night before in prayer journaling, the man I've called to you will call you tomorrow. Be available. And I wrote down on my little log, I hear God chuckling. And the next day, Dave called, and a year later, we were married. I only had businesses, no children. I had dogs and businesses, and he brought into my life 4 amazing adult children, 12 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. And it's been an amazing thing. He's very, very different than I am. We're very compatible, but he's very different than I am, and he balances me. He brings me peace, and I bring him a little spark of energy, and it works out great. We're very happy. And peace, without peace, you really won't find promotion into your purpose. You'll find promotion, you'll make money, but will you be fulfilled? And I really do believe there's a peace experience I talk about in the book, several places in the book, that you can access peace for certain breathing, certain visualization, and that kind of thing. And I've had people get off of anxiety meds. I'm not suggesting you do. I'm just saying do what your doctor says. But we've had people go into a place of peace and promotion when they shake off what has happened and they take in what is available.
Wow. Shake off what's happening, take in what's available.
That's powerful stuff.
It's a fact too. That's what I love about it. So what's next? What are you going to, you wrote this book. Here you are, like 70, which is a whole different number than 60s. I'm in the mid 70s, and I'm telling you, it's a number. What's your plans? You guys are traveling, you're living life, you're loving those grandkids. What's going on?
Well, some interesting things are going on. I'm beginning a podcast that will be televised beginning in a couple months. That's going to be called Talk Triumph. And we're going to just go through healing every single day. The thing I did with the book is you can start the begin and end, do the journal throughout, or you can just pick up the book and open to a page, and there's 3 or 4 pages that I promise will make a difference in your life. Yeah. And so we're doing that show that will be talking about transformation and healing and business skills. And then also I'll be doing a walkthrough in the book that people can come on to 4 free sessions. And I'll basically go through each of the healing stages. There's train wreck, transition, transformation, and triumph. And I'll walk through a little bit of that with them. And then just getting it out there. This book is my heart's love. It's what I want to do to change lives. I'm now involved in one of the world's, probably will be the world's greatest motivational album that will be coming out, announced tomorrow, actually, that the brand partnership. And I'll be doing that and just going on and changing lives. I get thrilled every time someone picks up this book and contacts me and just says, I've got to get this to these people. These people need this. Whether it's divorce or disappointment or sudden trauma, giving ourselves the gift of healing. And I believe I went through what I went through to really see that I could be a benefit to others. And that's
when
it.
you look under the covers of people that are kind of type A people like you, people with pets and with businesses and just going all the time, and you got a person in there that's just a lunatic in business, it's pretty likely they're a lunatic in their relationships in their lives. Mm-hmm. And it just goes without saying. And they think they're getting away with it because they're just such a jerk at work. And then they think everybody doesn't know how they are the rest of the time. Mm-hmm. Speak to that a little bit. How does somebody that is that way, that is the loneliest, most miserable person on the planet, how does that person create enough change in their life? Is there enough God? Is there enough personal development out there for those people to actually see the light and change?
Yes. Yes and yes. And I'll tell you, I know that's true because of how hard-hearted I got.
Yeah.
How I became just veneered with all the pain I'd gone through, just veneered. And it took me a lot to break through that. And this sounds kind of spooky, but I'll say it. It's my story. I was setting in a women's event, and before I started speaking, actually, and before I started doing this, I was setting at the women's event, and I heard this little voice. And you can call it an impression, you can call it whatever. I heard God, and he said, I realize how you're protecting yourself from the world. But the question that begs answering or asking is, who is protecting the world from you? And it was exactly those words.
Wow.
And it came to me as an insight. And I wanted to break out of that veneer. I had become totally about what I did. I had gone from being effervescent and kind of your I personality, fun and all that, to being quite dominant and boom, 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 boom. And I didn't want to be like that. And I really made a choice to seek to be back to who I'd been, not to lose who I was. And it's a decision. It's also paying attention to patterns. One of the most important things anybody who's listening to this right now and everyone can do is pay attention to your patterns. What keeps happening over and over? What is your part in it? Be accountable. And I believe you ask for forgiveness of God. You ask for forgiveness of yourself. Sometimes we have to really think about forgiving God, even though that's a strange concept. Sometimes we don't accept the things that have happened, those things that don't seem fair. And sometimes we can blame God. And sometimes we have to forgive others, ourselves, and God, if that's your situation. And then release, the releasing of it. A lot of people forgive, but if they don't release it, their value is not going to be seen. And ask for guidance. I just ask for guidance and the right people to come at the right time. And I'll tell you, when I was going through my tumultuous relationship, there was a lot a lot there that took place that is actually pretty miraculous, but pretty scary at the same time. And I would go to sleep with the TV on, and I would leave on one of the Bible teachers that was a woman. And I would just leave it on all night just because I was so tormented by what had happened. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It would wake me up. Okay. And I didn't wake up as long as I had that TV show on. But every time I would wake up about 2 a.m, I'd sit up in bed and hear her say, "You must forgive." And then I would go back to sleep. Every night she would say something like that. I would only be awake for that part. Then I'd go back to sleep. And I knew I would have crawled, like I said, on broken glass to get back to feeling again.
Yeah.
To get back to that place of I wasn't what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't need the approval to be accomplished. Because true accomplishment is being fulfilled and at peace and living in your purpose and walking out your journey and your vision and being present to everything life offers.
There you
And
go.
that's, I think, key is being present to the healing that's available. Not that you have to understand it and you have to control it, but you're willing to experience what is available. And that causes us to live in truth. I do a program called Truth Coaching that is just asking one question: is that the truth? I have it in my book. I have a lot of coaching in my book that goes through different coaching modalities. One is I've had great breakthroughs with people just asking, is that your truth today? That happened when you were 8, but was it forever, or was it one experience that happened at that point, but that wasn't the truth forever?
Yeah.
And releasing that and taking on what is the truth you can experience now. Tom, you're a different person today after all you've gone through that you were probably before. You're more open to things than you may have been before. You may feel differently than you did before. So what you experienced as truth before does not necessarily mean it is the truth that you live now.
Correct.
That's huge. That's huge. And so you're creating the podcast. It sounds like, are you doing some coaching still today around
Yes.
this book?
Mhm.
What is that?
Yes.
Like?
I'm doing transformational coaching around the book and vision coaching. So what I had gone to as a business coach was really visionary strategies, creating the vision. So there's 4 steps to creating vision. It's also in the book at the end: create, connect, commit, and create collaborative strategies. So most of the time when someone's not living their vision, we say they're just not committed. Those people aren't really doing the teamwork they need to be doing because they're just not committed. They don't get it, you know?
Sure.
What they're not is they're not connected. Because I really believe if you connect someone powerfully to the vision, this works in business and personal, you connect them powerfully to the vision they create. I mean powerfully. I mean their toenails should feel tingling. They should feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it. Because emotion is the root word of emotion. So you're not going to move if you don't have some emotion.
Right.
And so connecting them powerfully, and there are steps to do this, skills, and then their commitment's going to happen. That's a matter of fact. That's just going to take place because their commitment is going to be slightly lower than their connection, and then the collaborative strategies. So this is a very important part. So I was doing visionary and strategies. So strategies undergird the vision.
Okay.
So that's the piece I was doing, and I'm doing that coaching still for business owners, entrepreneurs, a lot of direct sellers, and various people, whoever they are, whoever they want, ministers or whatever. And then the transformational piece with the book, that's all part of the book, and it's walking through. I wanted to provide something that people felt I was walking with them, that they felt they had a friend on their journey, and I was walking with them. So you'll see in the book repetitive areas. You'll see the peace experience 4 or 5 times. You'll see prayer journaling sprinkled throughout, because I want them, when you're in a journey of healing, what you heard 2 weeks ago, you may need to hear again.
Sure.
And that kind of thing. So yes, I'm doing both of those things, and speaking, you know.
The first 45 years of my life, as I think about this, I think I had imposter syndrome around spirituality. until I've been sober about 7 years, and I'm looking around and I'm going, you know what? I finally love God, and I finally love me on God's terms and on my terms. And over the last 20 years, I haven't had that same yucky feeling like somebody else had it and I didn't. And I'm wondering with you, because obviously you came out of a pastor's family, and then you went through all these highs and lows throughout your business career, your life career, the whole shooting match. Did you ever feel like that? Or has this just been, you were pretty comfortable in your own skin, but it keeps evolving more? Or did you feel like me once in a while, like, holy cow, I'm looking in the mirror and I don't really like that guy very much at all. Plus he's lying through his teeth. He's not nearly as hip, slick, and cool as he's trying to tell people he is. That was me. Did you ever feel like that at all? Or was that?
I went through, some of the time I did. I went through about 10 years, a little less maybe, where I was out doing all the business and working in the areas, and I still believed what I believed, but I wasn't living according to my code. I wasn't living according to what felt right to me. I wasn't being a bad girl. I wasn't out there doing crazy things, but I was not as connected. I was not as living as I felt I always would live. And life wasn't showing up like I always felt life would show up. And so I was going and teaching success, but I was going home lonely. I stood in front of a group of realtors, women realtors, about 150, and said, I understand brokenness and betrayal. I understand you go home and there's no one to talk to because you put all your energy into creating the business. And I understand that loneliness. And there's a place that if you're not connected with yourself and you're not connected with God as he wants to be in your life, there is a place that loneliness lives that is not filled with anything, no matter the habits, no matter the success. During that time, I made more money than I've ever made in my life. Yeah. I had more money in a bank account than I ever dreamed I would have. I wish I had not been so emotionally challenged at the time. I wish I had had more clarity, because I would have managed money way differently, but it was a lesson learned. And I found myself attracting people in business that I didn't need. But because I didn't have enough awareness of what I brought to the table, I brought people into business relationships that I didn't need to have in them, that I would fund and therefore release money in the wrong places. Sure. So I did. I felt like an imposter. And I think a lot of speakers and a lot of coaches feel that way.
So do I.
I used to have this man, I dated a motivational speaker who was an imposter syndrome specialist, bless his heart. And he would tell the joke about the Saturday Night Live skit that would talk about the motivational speaker living in this trailer down by the river. That story over and over. And, even your podcasters, even now, your podcasters, I do a lot with reoccurring revenue strategies with podcasters and with TV people, and do a lot with them. And it's amazing how many podcasters don't have enough money to market their own show.
Yeah.
And so we're living the dream we want to live, but we haven't done the steps many times.
Teri, we got about 5 minutes left, and I just want to kind of end the show talking about, what is kind of the lasting, you've poured yourself into this book, and as you sort of have your own vision of what can come from that, what do you see as the lasting impact that comes from releasing this?
I really do see this book having the ability to reach the nations, to really impact people with PTSD, people going through physical healing. So much of what we do as far as forgiveness impacts our brain, impacts our thoughts, we change our cells, our physical DNA millisecond by millisecond through what we think. I really do see the impact in the veteran community, the PTSD community, the addiction community. Addictions are rarely about loving the substance. there are many times about needing a release from pain. I was raised in a pastor's home, but we had extended family that had some challenges in that area. And many times the addiction is a substitute, for peace, and really making a difference across the world in people's businesses, in their lives, in their ministries, in their families. There's a lot in the book about how to communicate, how to have those hard conversations, how to create that conversation, conflict resolution happening in a minute with the right questions asked. All that's in the book. And I really feel no matter where people are in their life, the book will meet them where they are. That was my hope. I believe the book meets people where they are, and they can take what they need to get to the next step. And if they can take the information and it help a family member that maybe they're restrained in relationship because of just not communicating, misunderstanding, pain. And that is my dream. That would be, I would feel my legacy. I feel it's my legacy piece. I plan to still be kicking and speaking and coaching for a long time. But it's nice to have something that is out there making a difference, even when I'm not in the living room, when I'm not on the stage, even when I'm not the person they know up close and personal, but there is someone who was impacted. And I really believe if there were one person changed, I would write the book for them, because it is absolutely my heart.
I think you ought to give away a trip to Mexico to somebody that bought your book.
I think so. So what we're going to do, if you'll go to Trainwreck to Triumph Facebook group or the page on Facebook, we have both. If you go and you buy the book, paperback, and if you send us a video and you post it on one of those links and one of those places with the book and saying one thing you liked about the book, we will send you a message and you will be able to access a lodging and full food, beverage, plus lodging at a resort of your choice that will be available in Mexico or the Caribbean islands. You pay for your taxes and you pay for your transportation. That is for every single person who does that.
Everybody wins everybody wins?
Yeah, everyone wins.
What the holy smoke?
Everyone gets a trophy.
What
You've heard of that?
Smoke? Yeah, I had that contest wrong. That's pretty cool.
That's great.
Yes.
Right.
It's a great thing. It's I believe it's 5 nights, 6 days.
Yeah, that's second prize. First prize is you have to go with Doug Stair.
Exactly. And you know what? We could just have a group there, a transformation group, and all of them go to the same resort. And we like each other well enough. We could hang out. If we don't, we could, go talk to somebody at the pool and create transformation.
That would be tremendously cool. And I love you. And
all right. So here, you've got everybody's attention.
Getting all choked up over this. You okay?
yeah, so
All right. Who cares? I'm going to Mexico.
You can't breathe.
Whatever happens.
All right, Adrian, great job.
Adrian and I are going to Mexico.
Now we're on AM radio, by the way, everybody. So we've got like a hard stop almost.
Okay.
So this guy named Jason Garcia is putting us on unbelievable stations all over the world. So it's pretty doggone cool. So you guys stay tuned for that. And the only terms of the deal was we didn't have to have commercial breaks, which we negotiated. They're actually making us a block inside of that. And so Richard Brook will be happy, who's a guest.
I'd like to know that Joseph Garcia guy. That's a cool guy right there.
Yeah, you got to meet him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on. We got to tell them one last time because everybody's freaking out. So search for Trainwreck to Triumph on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the book. You got to take a picture of you with the book and share one thing you loved about it. And you get a trip to Mexico, food, lodging, accommodations. All you have to pay is to get there and your taxes, and you get to go. And every person who does this gets it. So that's
right. But I want it to be a video. I want it to be a selfie with a video just saying, hey, this is the name and this is what I love.
Love it. All right.
All right. We love you guys and thank you very much.
You guys.
There is a pony there somewhere we don't know about. Sue her. We love you. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Love you all.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.